following days were full of chaos. The Demon Lord tried to come back and reclaim his pride, but Diana somehow managed to press back with ease, giving him more wounds than inflicted before. It was like the castle became an impregnable fortress. Soon, word spread around to the neighboring kingdoms of the Demon Lord's defeat and continued failed attempts to attack. Many leaders sent messages of allegiance, which Diana humbly accepted, and soon enough we drove the Demon Lord's army far back away from us. After every battle, she would wind up in my arms, much to the slightly obvious disapproval of Saero. This is only slightly obvious. Whenever a demon questioned my presence, Diana would simply wave them off with a small token of praise towards me.
She is my most honored guest, and she is here to help us win this war.
You're gonna give them a little more than that one day, girl. Still, the thought of what we officially were began to make me concerned. Did Diana see me more than an energy source and ally? We had kissed before we returned, but since then I couldn't have been more unsure. I began to question myself. Why was I here? I could only shake my head in response. I shouldn't doubt anything. We were in the midst of war, and with Diana at the front she had many responsibilities, many that I could never even hope to think on. The pinnacle moment of our relationship, however, came when a brute demon stormed into the castle all on his own. He was unarmed and carrying a single item which made many demons step away from him in fright. Hey, Faye's here. Diana, Saero, and I were in the war room with 3 other beings whom I had named Faye, Rabbit, and Shadow for simplicity. So I named them myself. Great. When the doors to the room swung open, everyone was forced to turn their heads from the map we were previously poring over.
Whoa! What is...
Hey, it's Sergeant. All protest became silent as the being who entered chucked the object in his hand onto the table. As it settled to a stop in the middle of the map, all of the demons in the room stared in absolute shock. Is that a horn? Oh, it's his horn. I just realized. Lying on the table was a red broken horn. There was no blood or bone in it, but it was indeed the horn of the being who had stormed in. I became confused, wondering why this being decided to throw his horn at us. Yeah, I'm like, this must be a brute demon's way of showing allegiance, maybe? As I looked at Diana, however, I could see the shock in her eyes. The expression on her face was a mixture of fear, surprise, and a little flattery, like someone had given her an exotic bouquet of bloody, thorn-filled roses. Did I say bouquet? Felt like I said bouquet for some reason. There was a bouquet, anyway. Bleh. Diana finally looked up at the demon who had entered the room and examined him.
Brute demon. What is the meaning of this?
What does it look like?
It looks like you're swearing your allegiance to the rebellion. The question is why?
He swore allegiance with his horn?
It's a brute demon tradition. If they leave their tribe to serve a non-nomadic kingdom without marrying into it, then they must break a horn in allegiance.
Thanks, Rabbit, for taking the time to interrupt this pivotal moment to explain that to me, because I didn't get it.
However, from what I recall, there are no more tribes left in the demon world after the Demon Lord's mass genocide of the brute demons.
Oh, so he's like a Worf character. Like, the honor of the Klingons demands that I break my horn to you. I stared wide-eyed at Shadow. Mass genocide? The Demon Lord had that much power to eliminate an entire demon race? Isn't the Demon Lord a brute demon himself, so he, like, murdered his entire race? I looked at the brute demon, seeing him glare hard at Shadow at his remark.
Well, he didn't kill everyone.
Apparently.
So there are more of you?
A flash of grief flashed in the brute's eyes before he looked down at the table.
No. I'm the only one left, and I refuse to let that bastard get away with this.
I felt incredibly terrible for the grief he had to bear. It must have been horrible to be the last of his kind. I looked at Diana, wondering what she would do with this information. The look on Diana's face was enigmatic. She was obviously in deep thought, but how was she going to handle the situation before her? Finally, she took in a breath and let out a sigh before speaking.
Sir Brute, you come swearing your allegiance to the rebellion. Is there anything you demand of us for your service?
It was the question she asked every alliance leader. They often asked for the promise of freedom, or an oath of protection from harm. The demons who were with us in the room simply joined out of their own interests. What about this demon? The brute demon rolled his shoulders back and stared hard at Diana, making her straighten up a bit.
I ask for you to perform ascending.
Ascending?
For the souls of your people?
Oh. The brute nodded before stepping up and placing his large hand on the table, staring at the back of it in torn shame.
My people did not deserve death, but their ashes now lie in the earth. There is no one who can give them a proper sending, so I ask that you, succubus, do this for me in return for my service.
I looked to Faye, hoping they would explain, but Diana turned to me and spoke instead.
Dear, ascending is a ritual brute demons perform to honor their deceased. It is a ritual of both celebration and grief, so it must be done with a full heart.
Huh? Oh, thanks. Diana smiled at me and nodded before turning back to the brute. I was happy that she was still willing to teach me despite her position. The brute, however, finally took notice of me and glared.
A human? What is it doing here?
Excuse me? It? I became suddenly irritated and stepped forward to confront the demon, but Diana placed a hand on my shoulder and cleared her throat. Well, aren't we the brave one?
She is a vital part of this war, Sir Brute. Please do not disrespect her.
I looked at Diana, seeing her press her lips together in a fine line and stare into the brute's soul. A part of me felt extremely flattered at her protection. However, I could practically feel Saero's jealous aura from the other side of Diana. Ugh. The brute took a hard stare at me before eventually nodding and crossing his arms.
So, will you do it?
Diana took a moment to herself, staring at the wooden table in thought. I began to ponder as well about it. He seemed to be a worthy ally, but Diana seemed torn. Was it appropriate for a demon who wasn't a brute to do it? You should do it. I placed my hand on Diana's shoulder and nodded as she looked up at me in curiosity. If the brute wanted her to do it, then she should to gain a potentially powerful ally. I smiled and nodded to her as she slowly relaxed under my gaze. After a moment, Diana turned to the brute demon and nodded.
Very well. I will perform the sending of your fallen kin.
When?
This afternoon.
Wow. Everyone hitched their breath in surprise at Diana's words. She would perform the same day? Did she even know how to perform it properly? Diana? With a chuckle, Diana looked to me with a small smirk.
I'll be fine, dear. I know a fair amount of brute demon rituals.
Okay. That afternoon became full of hustle. Servants were rushing back and forth, trying to prepare for a ritual they knew little to nothing about. Luckily, Shadow and Rabbit helped instruct everyone properly. I was taken to my room, given an opportunity to rest, but as I sat on the bed, I felt restless. I didn't want to sit around and do nothing for the day. There was much I could do, despite being a human. I wasn't some decoration, some energy orb. I defied my instructions and wandered, hoping to find Diana. I wanted to help her if possible, but as I approached the room she was practicing in, I managed to catch a pair of voices.
My lady, I must insist.
I thought we might run into him instead.
Insist that I lock her in her room like a prisoner? Out of the question.
But why? What have I done? I quickly pressed myself against the wall near the doorway, because I'm a super secret spy girl, and continued to listen in, now wondering what was going on.
She is not a pet or a slave, Saero. She is my guest and greatest ally.
I understand this, but she's also a human. Every time someone new comes to forge an alliance with the rebellion, the human's presence is questioned.
If they are turned away by a mere human, then they are worthless allies.
What'd I do to them?
My lady, you are not understanding my point.
Then what is the point, Saero?
A small silence followed. I was in awe that Diana was defending me so hard. As for Saero, I began to hear the jealous beast he was hiding. What was he going to do?
My point is that people are questioning what she is to you.
Maybe we should set the record straight finally, that would be great. The question pained me to realize, but I was curious as well. What was I to her? She vouched for me as an ally, but did she like me as I liked her? I came with her to fix this world, but I truly came for her. After a painfully long silence, Diana spoke again.
I care for her. Very much so. Like I care for you, Saero. She is very important to me, for many reasons. She has become part of my life, and anyone who questions why will be silenced.
Oh dear.
Is that enough to appease you?
I don't think you could have picked a worst choice of words there. We're on equal terms with Saero? Yanderis don't do equal very well, girl.
It is not my place to be appeased.
I took a breath, taking in what Diana has said. She cared for me. I wasn't sure whether to feel happy or sad at that, but I had to take it in that she cared enough to protect and defend me. Also caused an allergic reaction, but moving on. The sneeze made Faye notice me. I didn't get to feel the emotion for long, however, as Faye flew up beside me and grinned. I panicked for a moment, hoping that they wouldn't give away my position, but they whispered to me, understanding.
Psst. We're about to go prepare the ritual dance area thing. Whatever. Wanna come watch?
I opened my mouth to object, but was stopped by Diana's voice.
Now, please, leave me be. I have to prepare, and cannot afford any more distractions.
I grimaced. I came to help, but I guess she had to work alone. I left with Faye, not wanting to be caught by Saero, and understanding that she needed to be alone to work. This ritual seemed very important to her, and the brute demon that demanded it of her. In truth, I was excited to see Diana to go through with it. The fact that she was willing to dance for the brute demon was surprising. When Faye and the handful of demons that helped them finish their work, I stood in the front line of a crowd surrounding the ritual area. We're gonna watch her dance? To say that I was mildly nervous for her was an understatement. Did Diana even know how to do this sending? From what she insinuated to me as she brought me to my room, she would be given instructions and follow them to a T. Would she be able to do it? A small, quiet wave of gasps came towards my direction, causing me to look over at where they originated from. I stared wide-eyed at what I saw. Diana? Whoa! Diana became a gypsy woman? Or an Arabian belly dancer? Something. She's great. Looking fabulous, girl. Wish your garb was a little more purple instead of to the pink side, but I will allow it because it still looks good. Diana was dressed in some sort of dancer garb with purple paint over her already tainted skin, shaping symbols around her body. In her hand were two large sabers glowing in the sunlight. She was absolutely stunning. Diana stepped between the crowd as they parted ways for her and into a chalk-drawn circle which separated the ritual area and the ones watching it. Her bare feet guided her to the center as a couple of other demons, each holding an instrument, set up near the edge away from where I was. At last, the air was filled with complete silence. The look on Diana's face showed pure concentration and focus as she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Ooh, new music. The drums echoed through the air as the dance finally began. I stared, mesmerized by what I was watching. Diana's entire body moved in time with the beat and instruments floating through the air. The saber she was holding glided through the air as if they were slicing through it with perfect ease. As the beat moved, her hips and shoulders rolled fiercely, like a hypnotic and passionate belly dance routine mixed with an African tribal step. However, her focus remained on the sabers in her hand and the circle she was instructed to dance within. Her bare feet hit the ground hard with her heels jutting into the dirt, not hard enough to disturb the soil, but loud enough to echo alongside the drum beat. My breath was taken away by the sight. However, I wasn't the only one blown away by the dancing succubus.
She's beautiful, isn't she?
Oh, you're talking to me now, eh? I didn't turn my head away, but I could tell that Saero had stepped up to stand beside me and watch Diana dance. The two of us stood side by side, watching the person we both cared about give homage to an extinct demon race. Sarah's voice was barely audible over the sound of the drums and chants in the air.
To accept this role is a great honor for her.
Don't ignore him, he's extending a branch. Really? Why? I felt my curiosity surface at his statement. Was this dance truly an honor? This was meant to honor the death of thousands of brute demons. How was this an honor?
Brute demons are extremely devoted to proper ceremony and homage. Because of this, the role of rage dancer is often given to the most powerful and the most honorable brute demon in the tribe where they perform the sending.
Ah. But Diana is not a brute demon. Why not have the brute demon himself perform it?
Because the brute demon recognizes her strength. He knows how powerful she is, so he asked her to perform it in his stead.
A small laugh escaped Saero's lips, causing me to glance over slightly before returning to watch the dance. What's so funny?
I apologize. Imagining that brute demon dance is rather humorous to think about.
That thought did occur to me, Tim, like, he wouldn't look as nice in the outfit. As the thought popped into my head, I couldn't help but giggle a bit as well. Saero and I shared a laugh before letting it die quietly so we could continue to watch Diana, the true dancer of the evening.
I love her.
Ah, the declaration has been spoken. That's not my thoughts. I looked over to Saero, seeing his gaze still plastered towards Diana. His expression was cool and like stone, serious in what he had said and meant. He loved her?
I've loved her ever since we were children. I've been by her side through everything, and she's given meaning to my life. I would give my life for her if she demanded it.
At last, Saero looked to me, a small fire burning in his eyes through his gaze. I could see the devotion and truth in his soul, knowing how deeply he cared for Diana.
What say you to that?
What say you? Well, she loves me, so I don't know. I say, I love her too. So what are we gonna do about this? Saero was serious about his affections. So was I. Saero stared wide-eyed as I smiled and nodded to him, understanding his feelings. I feel happy when I'm with her. She's taught me so much during the time we spent together. About demons and the 5 worlds. I can still hardly believe it all exists at once. I looked back to Diana, seeing her continue her dance with a concentrated expression. The more I thought of her, the happier I felt myself becoming. I thought of all she had done. While what she did was a tragedy, it was in desperation. She had no choice. I understood that and knew eventually that without that act I never would have learned about this world or magic at all. Before I met her, my life was boring and bland. I went to school and was only allowed to think about my future. When Diana appeared, she changed my life. She showed me an entire new universe, and I will never be able to thank her enough for that. I know you've been with her for a very long time. But she's mine! But she is important to me. Saero needed to see her importance to me. I desperately loved her and wanted to be with her. That was why I came in the first place. I wouldn't let Saero's love for her sway my feelings for her. I was given silence as Saero's reply. He's gotta mull this over. Diana's dance continued into the night, surprising me. She had this much stamina? Despite watching her, she didn't stop to break once, most likely expending energy to keep moving. How long did the dance have to go for? As the torchlights illuminated the space and the moon was at the top of the sky, Diana finally stopped, panting hard and clashing the sabers together to cause a ring of steel to bounce through the air. The audience clapped wildly, many deeply captivated enough to stay the entire time, as some joined in during the later hours of the ritual. The brute, whom I decided to dub as Sergeant for reasons, stepped from the crowd into the ritual space and walked towards Diana. Letting the sabers vanish into the air, Diana looked to the one approaching her with a tired stare. Silence lingered between them as Sergeant held out his arm to Diana. With a smile, Diana reached out and clasped her hand onto his forearm.
Honorimus dirigendo pedes.
Victoria in consumatione.
Another round of cheers echoed through the air at the words exchanged between them. I smiled, knowing that Diana had appeased Sergeant and his people. Diana released her hold on his hand and nodded to him before looking towards me and ushering me to her. I quickly rushed over. She lifted her arm and placed it along my shoulders tiredly. Diana?
I need a little help.
I see. I could feel Saero's gaze on my back. Would he step in and fight me, doing as she asked? I looked back to see him watching with a blank expression. What was going on in his mind? Well, hopefully one of these days we'll find out. With a laugh to Diana, I led her back to my room, where she sat tiredly on the bed. The exhaustion in her face was clear, and her body quaked from overexerting itself. Good job, girl. You danced so beautifully, Diana. With a smile, Diana looked up at me and blushed a bit. To see her face go a slight pink made her look so adorable.
You flatter me, dear.
I speak truth. I could only smile before she slowly stood back up and took my hand, surprising me. She kept her head down, however, which made me even more confused as to what she was doing. Diana?
Dear, I'm sorry.
Huh? For what? Diana grimaced a bit before looking up at me with serious eyes. They flicked back and forth between red and gold, but she stood her ground.
For the intolerance from my kind. Humans aren't exactly welcomed in this world.
Oh, that. That's okay. I thought you were breaking up with me. Don't scare me like that. That's what this was about. I understood completely, but it seemed to hit Diana the hardest. After all, she was the one who brought me to this world. I cupped Diana's cheek and smiled at her, causing her expression to go from shame to surprise. Diana, it's all right. I love you. Diana hitched her breath. It was true, though. I had grown to love her for everything she had done. She was brave, powerful, beautiful, everything I desired in a person. My heart beat wildly for her, and I could only pray that she understood my feelings. Diana looked to our hands, her eyes watering a bit. I instinctively wiped her eyes a bit with my fingers, now concerned. Diana?
I don't know what love is.
Oh no, not this too. I stared dumbfounded. She didn't know what love was? However, she surprised me by placing a gentle, shaking hand on my cheek, leaning in.
But I'm willing to learn, if it's with you.
Ooh, got a pang in my heart for that Saero boy, though. He, tried for probably centuries, saying, I love you, and she's like, I don't understand you. I'll never understand you. I've been here for, 2 weeks. She's like, okay, I will accept this at face value and try to learn if it's because it's you. Oh, poor Saero, my poor yandere boy. I gasped slightly, seeing the earnest care in her eyes before she closed them and gently planted a kiss on my cheek. A soft shudder ran down my spine as I felt her soft lips press against my skin. Maybe we should sleep, though. Well, give her a smooch. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to kiss her. I'm like, are we gonna get seduction music? Interesting. I pulled Diana close and wrapped my arms around her neck, capturing her lips with my own. She gasped, surprised at my sudden eagerness, but slowly began to melt into the kiss between us. Her lips were as heavenly as the night I first tasted them. Her arms gently wrapped themselves around my waist, pulling me close to her body. The jangle of her brute dancer garb echoed in the room, making me smile slightly at the surprise noise. I had nearly forgotten that she was still in her dancer outfit. On their own, my fingers slowly danced down Diana's shoulders and traced over the seams of her outfit, making her body shudder ever so slightly. Was she enjoying a mere touch that much? Or was she hungry for energy? I pulled away slightly, seeing her eyes dance between red and gold, some control trying to be maintained within her gaze on me. She was out of energy, and she needed more than just a kiss. For now, I would take it slow. I leaned back in and kissed her again, this time biting her lower lip and enticing her to let go of the control she had. I wanted her to relax, and for me to be the one to comfort her and hold her against me. Maybe it was because of the call her succubus body had on me, or maybe it was because my heart desired to be with her that much. I didn't care, but I obeyed the command of my heart to drive her to the pleasure we both craved. The night would be for us, and the warmth of the afterglow would be exquisite. Diana released an almost carnal moan against my lips and tightened her grip on my waist, almost slamming my body against hers. My plan was working, and she was falling for my temptations. I couldn't help the smirk that painted itself across my face at the gesture. In return, I quickly rushed my hands up Diana's body and combed my fingers into her hair before gripping her horns. Those horns. To my surprise, Diana released a moan against my lips, causing me to pull away and stare into Diana's surprised eyes. A blush ran across her cheeks, but her gaze melted into one of lust and desire as I held her horns in my grasp. Were her horns her weak spot? I gripped them harder. Probably. I was right. I pulled Diana closer to me with her horns and almost slammed my lips into hers, wanting to devour the moan she was releasing. I felt myself become more passionate in the kiss between us, needing to feel more of her. Diana dug her nails into my hips and practically pushed me onto the bed behind me, causing us to bounce on the mattress. I reflexively released her horns and felt my hands fall back on either side of me as Diana smirked down at my form.
You're not playing fair.
Hello. What is behind your head? Is that, like, are you kneeling over? Is that your hip? I really hope that's your hip and not, like, some, I don't know, extra appendage I don't know about. I felt a small warmth ignite in my core, pleading with me to ravish her again, but I felt myself become lost in her dominant gaze over me. I felt the clothing on my body become uncomfortable, and I wanted to take it all off beneath her, but I remained locked in her sight. Diana ran a hand along my cheek and traced a finger down my body, slowing its dance over each curve it found lovingly and sending shivers up my spine. Look who's talking, Diana chuckled before leaning in nose to nose with me.
Let me make you feel good.
At last, Diana became the one who initiated our kiss, her hands pressing down on my waist to pin me to the bed beneath us. I wrapped my legs around her waist, pulling her to me and causing a chuckle echo? A chuckle to echo from between our lips. Don't reach so far ahead. As her hands began to comb over my skin and tug my shirt off of my body, I felt her pull away to strip it off of me. It was tossed to the side to be forgotten, for our focus remained on each other. I felt myself turn red at what we were slowly diving into, taking in the fact that I had initiated a dance with the succubus I had grown to love. It was unfair that she was in control, but it was only natural. I had barely noticed the garb over Diana's body disappearing, leaving her bare over me. Despite the purple taint over her skin covering her essentials, I could tell that she was still very much nude just from the heat between us. Diana's kisses trailed down my cheek and neck, nipping over my skin and making the warmth within my core burn even hotter in need. Every kiss and touch she placed on me made my mind spin and dance in endless waves of soft euphoria. I knew that this wasn't her first time being intimate, but I could tell that every touch she made she only did for me and my own pleasure. She truly indeed intended to make me feel good. I became like putty in her hands, my own eventually resting above my head as I let her strip me bare and massage over every inch of my body. She didn't just kiss over me. She made every muscle in my body obey her with her fingers and palms. Oh my goodness, this is going on so long! Even as her tongue licked over my most delicate spots, she took great care in watching my reactions and listening to my moans, working her way into my mind, body, and soul to tie them all together in a heated frenzy of lust and desire. This was truly the work of a master succubus, and I was able to call her mine. Even as my cries echoed through the room, she didn't stop until I was floating on cloud 9. Her pleasure came from my moans and multiple releases, filling herself with my energy and devouring the pleasure we shared hungrily and lovingly. I was in heaven in a succubus's embrace with an angry angel human outside the door. I barely could register her arms around my form as she held me close to her and kissed over my hair.
My sweet love, I will hold you close for as long as I can.
Man, that was like Damien-esque levels of intensity there. And I will be with you forever. My heart fluttered at the feelings beating through my chest. I was happy, and I would keep this happiness close to me for as long as I lived.